guys, welcome to my channel where we discuss anything and everything to do with mental health and psychology. In this video, it will be a little bit different to my usual videos in that I've decided to apply for the Doctorate in Clinical Psychology, and I thought I'd vlog the process. And the reason that I wanted to vlog the process is for my own reflection, because I know a lot of people don't get on in their first try, and this is my first ever time applying, and I know the odds of me actually getting in are quite slim. So I thought it would be quite useful for me to even look back next year to think about actually what went wrong, what went right, to just inform my process, and hopefully I can do something different next year. I think it will also be useful if I do get in, just to know actually what I did, how the journey was, and just to see hopefully some growth across this process and give you some advice on what to do, what not to do, and what helped me in my doctorate journey, because I know everyone's journey is a little bit different. Also, I think whether I get in or not, I think it's quite useful to actually just see the process, because currently where I am, never having applied before, not really knowing what to expect, I at this stage would want to know what this process is going to look like, and hopefully I can give that to you on your journey, so just so you have a little bit less uncertainty. And from what I've heard about the process, it can be quite draining, both physically and emotionally, and it can be almost like a whirlwind of emotions, of highs and lows, I think, from having seen people throughout the years go through the process. So yeah, I guess I'm going to start understanding the struggle of the Dclinpsy process. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So what I'm going to start with, also just a disclaimer, I might actually give some tips and advice throughout, but also take it with a little bit of, I don't know what the saying is, pinch of salt or something, because I do not know what I'm doing, and I want to make it clear that within this vlog, within how many ever vlogs I do of this, I do not know what I'm doing, and I'm just going with the flow and trying to navigate the process. I have no set game plan. I'm just going to, as information comes, I'm just going to adapt my plan according to that and what I think is a good idea. But what I think is a good idea might not necessarily be a good idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this vlog process, but in the end, if I get on, if I don't get on, I'll do like a reflection video on what worked, what didn't work, what didn't work, things like that. So again, take any advice that or tips that I give you in this video with a pinch of salt. So anyway, how I'm going to start is I'm just going to start by going through Clearinghouse and the Alternative Handbook. Alternative Handbook, I'm not really sure what it is, but I know it's got statistics on current demographics and insights, or almost like how someone described it to me was like almost like reviews of different courses. So I just want to know like what courses are available, because I am limited in where I'm willing to travel to, because I can't travel to all the universities, so I am limited in that way. So I'd rather know what the course is like before I select it as an option. And then I'm going to go to Clearinghouse website. Firstly, I'm just going to look at, and this is over a few days by the way, not just all today. I'm also going to go through Clearinghouse. First, today what I'm going to do is go through the dates, put the dates in my diary so I have a clear plan of like what I need to do and what the deadlines are. And then I'm also going to look through Clearinghouse website and just see what the courses say about themselves, just to get a better idea of what's available, what are the options, and almost like, do I need to expand my area that I'm looking at, or yeah, things like that, because I think I'm just going to be fully informed as possible and then make my decisions. Some of this might be a waste of time because half these universities I can't travel to, but I just want to know what's available and just be informed as possible. And yeah, that's what I'm going to do for now. That's my original game plan on day one. Whether that changes over the next few weeks, I don't know. Yeah, wish me luck on this process. So it's been a while since my last update, and since then I think I've done quite a bit. So I've attended and signed up for events on Eventbrite. who, there's some webinars on there for the Doctorate in Clinical Psychology hosted by a variety of different universities and some multiple universities. And it's just giving you tips, giving you advice on what to do in the process. So I've signed up for those. I've also signed up for the EDI mentoring scheme. So that's the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion mentoring scheme. I've signed up to a few universities just to see if I can get on, because I know it's quite competitive. But I'm only going to select one of those. I don't think you necessarily have to go to the university or be selecting that university as an option to sign up for the mentoring scheme, in case you guys are thinking about it. So I've signed up for that. Well, they didn't really ask me what universities I'm applying for. So yeah. So I'm assuming it doesn't really matter. I think it would be quite useful if you were going to that university. So if the universities that you're selecting are offering a mentoring scheme, I would look into that, because they can probably give you more specific advice on that university rather than just like generic advice. And then yesterday, despite being warned not to do this, I went on the Dclinpsy forum, which, let's just say I've learnt my lesson. It's a downward spiral and you can very easily get stuck in an anxious hole. Let's just say that. And I personally wouldn't recommend it. I think there's quite conflicting information on there, so I don't think you can really trust everything that's on there. Even if there might be some factual information, I don't think you trust everything. So I personally would not use it. But obviously if you're finding it useful, you do you, and you know. But for me, and especially if you're uncertainty is a difficult thing, and this process, what I'm finding, is riddled with uncertainty. And uncertainty and reassurance seeking is just not a good mix, and that has a lot of information and you can spend hours on it. Personally, I find it to be a waste of time, but obviously if you want to go on there, you go on there. It's your process and you do what you want. I've also selected my universities, and so I've selected 4 universities. I won't go through my selection process because I don't know if it's a good process or if it was just long and tedious for no reason. And yeah, so now the only thing left is the actual application form. So yeah, I've also ordered 2 books, Surviving Clinical Psychology and another one. I'll post it here. I don't know what they're like yet, but yeah, we shall see when we get to it. I have started answering the questions. Well, I've done an outline of each question just to get some ideas flowing. I've started reading the Surviving Clinical Psychology book, which I think it personally is super helpful in terms of getting you to think about psychology more broadly and who you want to be as a clinical psychologist. And I think in my answers that's helped a lot. I've also started, so what the form looks like, it's 4 almost like personal statement questions that have a limited word count. And then at the start, there's almost like a CV section. So I finished my CV section and I recommend doing that first. What I've also started to do, so I've got a like a notebook with me, and while I've been going through like the CV section, I've been like writing down reflections as they come to me, because I think sometimes you forget the experience that you have. And so what I've been doing is actually, while I'm going through the CV section, is actually when I remember like a reflection, then I just write it down. But I'm doing this as I'm reading the Surviving Clinical Psychology book, and I think that has almost like primed my mind to think about reflections a little bit more deeply. So if you can, I would recommend getting the book. I'm sure you can find one in a library or something like that, or borrow it off someone. I've also found the Facebook group quite useful. So there's a clinical psychology applications Facebook group that has like a ton of resources. Some people are selling their books on there. So if you're lucky, you can like, you know, try and find one on there. But I think it's been super helpful in writing my reflections. What I've also started to do is start to reach out to current trainees or people who are clinical psychologists, just to ask them about the application process. The generic advice that I've gotten that I'll share with you is that everyone's application is different. While that's slightly reassuring, it's also, I want some certainty at this point. And as nice as it is to hear everyone's application is different, just be yourself, to show you who you are, I want some certainty. I'll be honest, I'm slightly struggling in this process. I did have a mentor. It didn't go as well as I expected. I don't know why. I just thought mentoring would be different. So another university reached out to me saying that I can have a space on their mentoring scheme. So I am debating if I should change mentors. I'm actually really struggling in this process. I want there to be a clear answer when there isn't one, and while it's nice to hear that everyone's application is different, you just need to show yourself, I don't know what that means, or what the right way of showing yourself is. So I had written like an outline, sent it to my mentor. I didn't really get good feedback, but then I felt like my application is becoming something that I don't want it to be. So I've been trying to change it, and then I actually sent it, which I found quite useful, to someone who's not psychology related, and then they gave me feedback that actually this could just be anyone's application, and it's not, like, they can't tell it's my application, if that makes sense. So, like, because I could tell there was something missing, and I think that something missing is showing myself in my application. But I'm at that stage where I'm just like, how much of myself do I show? How much of myself is too much? Which this is not a place I like being in. So a summary of this update is, I'm lost, I'm struggling, and I don't know what I'm doing. I think I will take some time away, because to be honest, if I submit like how my application is now, knowing that what I've taken out, and it's not something I'm comfortable with, yeah. Hopefully my next update will be a bit more positive. One thing I would advise is that
it's a very long process, but I think it's helpful because
I can see why this is a stressful process. Because it's so hard to actually, so there's a character count on these applications, so these questions, and it's quite hard to, because I either don't know what to write and can't fill those spaces, or then I have an idea of what to write and then fill them too much, if that makes sense. So I'm not really sure what I'm doing right now. There's not much guidance on what you should write, and I think that's a good thing in a way where, like, everyone writes their own thing, but it's quite, I don't know, difficult to know whether you're doing the right thing where you've never seen anyone else's application, if that makes sense. I am aiming for the earlier date, but again, knowing myself, I probably will get it done by then and then want to edit it again. But I'm just going to take my time, because, like, I don't think it makes a difference when you, it might, but I don't think it does make a difference when you hand it in.
I'm pretty much at that stage where I'm just like, I don't know what reflection means anymore. Even though it's only been a few weeks, everyone just keeps saying, oh yeah, it just needs to be reflective, when I've spoken to them about it. And I watched a few YouTube videos, and it's just like, what is reflection? And I don't know how to reflect anymore. Because I always find that, like, you reflect, and then you reflect, and you realise your first reflections weren't even deep enough. Does that make sense? Yeah, anyway, that's where I am. But I think,
I don't know, maybe I need to take a break after I've done today and just see where things go, I think. Because I think I'm getting to the point where, like, it's just, like, a bit too much. But anyway, because I don't want it to be a process where I'm burnt out by the time this is finished. Because I think I really need to pace myself if it's something that's going to take me, like, 9-10 months. But then by the time the interview comes, hopefully I get one, then I am going to be exhausted. So I'm going to aim for the the earlier date, but if I don't make it, I'm not too fussed about it, because it's like £10, but I'd rather be more happier with my application and then submit it in November. But we shall see what happens. So I think we've got to a point where we're ready to submit. One thing I would say actually is do not get too many people to read it. I think what ended up happening to me in the early stages of writing the application was that I got feedback from too many people. And then, because obviously clinical psychologists have different approaches, and trainees have different approaches, different styles of who they want to be as clinical psychologists. So some of the feedback was opposites, if that makes sense. So I found that actually quite difficult in terms of like knowing what to write, because people were giving me opposite feedback. Like some aspects people loved, some people just thought I should take stuff out or almost like water it down a little bit. And then I think what ended up actually happening a few weeks ago is that I just reached a point of being confused, because I was trying to adapt to all this feedback, but then when I was reading through my application I felt like it wasn't me anymore, and it didn't reflect who I was as a person or who I want to be as a clinical psychologist, if that makes sense. Yeah, so I think that was quite a hard stage to reach, because it's almost like you have to choose between, do I adapt to all these things that they're telling me a clinical psychologist should be, or advise me, because I know that it doesn't come from a place of like criticism. I think in most cases it doesn't. In terms of a negative way, they're trying to help you to try and get on. I advise not to get too many opinions, because I reached a point of I was just absolutely confused a few weeks ago, and it just caused unnecessary stress, because I just like almost like taking a step back and thinking, would I rather adapt and almost morph myself into this clinical psychologist that is almost an assembly of all these opinions that I've got, or do I stick to just being myself and the type of clinical psychologist that I envision myself to be? I chose to just be myself. So I just went through my application again and thought about the areas where I think that I'm missing. If I didn't feel like anything spoke to me or was me in the application, I just literally just took it out and just made sure that it just resonated with who I am. Like a general reflection I came to like a few weeks ago was, it will cost more to me to adapt and morph myself or water myself down to something that other people envision or other people want from me, especially in terms of things like personal experiences or diversity. But I think what I've come to the realization and reflection like across these like few weeks is that actually I'm not willing to do that anymore. Like because as much as you want the university to accept you, I feel like this process is also you accepting the university. And if a university doesn't accept me or doesn't give me a place based on my diversity, it's just that reflection of, actually, do I really want this university? Because personally, having been in environments where I've had to water myself down in order to integrate into a like culture or an organisation, I've almost reached the point where, and obviously this comes also from my privilege, I am not willing to do that anymore, because I feel like the cost of it is, for me, is a lot greater than the job, if that makes sense. Because if they're not willing to accept me and the clinical psychologist that I want to be, then I don't really want to be at that university. I know this little vlog thing got a little bit deeper than it needed to be, but I think almost for me, that's almost like where this application's come from, and almost like a summary of this experience, if that makes sense. And I think even coming to that conclusion in itself, even though I want to get on, don't get me wrong, and I want to get a place, I think that I feel quite content in that I've gained something from this process, whether I get in or not. Because after I've pressed submit, it's almost like I just sit and wait. And it's a very vulnerable process, because I've been very vulnerable in my application. We're going to submit, we're going to end this portion of the video here, and then we'll come back once we have results or something to go on.